Hi everyone, this is Ken LaRue from Autodesk. I am the Technical Marketing Manager for Smoke, and I have been asked to create a tutorial, a video, showing and focusing on the keying tools that are available inside of Smoke 2013. The idea behind this obviously is so now you can watch this video, you can understand and learn what's available to you as far as keying tools, and then you can take what you learn and utilize it in the Scruffy Challenge. Now, first of all, Autodesk and myself, we are very excited to be part of the Scruffy Challenge, the first Scruffy Challenge, which we're calling the Scruffy Smoke Challenge, and it is focusing on keying. So, hence the video tutorial about keying tools inside of Smoke 2013. Now, I'm assuming that you understand all the rules and all the contest information about this. If not, I highly recommend that you go to the website, scruffysmoke.com, and then you can get all the information, the contest, what you need to do, and so on, so that you can take part of this. Because the idea behind all this is to have fun and learn at the same time. So that's really what this is really focused on. It's not just about learning the software, but let's have some fun with it too. So make sure you check out the website to get all the information that you need, watch this video, and then dive in and dig in. Now there's one more thing I want to say, and that is that while this tutorial is going to teach you a lot of the tools that are available as far as keying and masking and rotoscoping inside of Smoke, this isn't the only way to pull this key. I guarantee you another Smoke artist may use a different method or a different tool set than I'm going to be using, because Smoke has such a wide variety of tools available to you. So yes, watch this video and I'm going to teach you a lot of great techniques and workflows, but I recommend you experimenting with all the tools as far as the keying tools while you're working on this contest, this project, this challenge, if you will, and really explore all of them, not just the ones that I'm focusing on here. When I was first approached about this, I said, we really don't want to have some green screen footage that's going to be like, one of these one button click done keys. First of all, they're not realistic. It's not what most people get on a daily basis. This is a challenge. So we need something that's going to be a little more challenging than one of these, one click, two clicks, adjust this, be done type of keys. And then I got the footage and I thought, wow, if every rule could possibly be broken as to what not to do when shooting green screen, I think they've been broken on this. Now, I'm not trying to insult anyone. They obviously, thought this was good and they give it to you. This is what happens to you every day, right? You get this green screen footage that obviously if you were there, you would probably tell them to light the back screen a little more evenly. And also, it's not the end of the world, but having talent walking into the scene, that adds some complexity to it. And then there's one rule that should never be broken, except for in extreme situations, and that is don't have the talent wear green while they're standing in front of a green screen. Well, the problem here is this guy, this talent, is supposed to be dressed up like the Joker, and the Joker costume has this fake green vest on. So there's not really much they could do if they really wanted to have the Joker costume. But let's just realize, let's think about this. So we've got a very poorly lit green screen. We even have a crease that's running in the green screen. We have the ground visible, and it's quite dirty and scuffed up and so on. And then, of course, we have, as I said, our talent walking in, and then he's wearing the green vest. Piece of cake, right? No problem. I gotta be honest with you, I was actually excited when I saw the footage, because this footage is gonna really let me dig deep into the tool set and the workflow that's available in Smoke to show you just how powerful the keying tools are. And this is not going to be a one-button key, as we just said. And in fact, whenever I get a shot like this, I typically like to break it down, if possible, into multiple keys, multiple mats that can then be blended back together. And that's what I'm going to do. Now, if you're familiar with Smoke, you know already that I can select a clip in my timeline. Oh, you know what? Let me backtrack a little bit. Just so you know what I got on my sequence here. I've got this back plate. If I bring my focus point down, my primary down, I've got a still image of a back plate here. And if we go back up, we obviously have our green screen footage. So I just got two layers in my composite here inside my timeline. Now, as I was saying, if you're familiar with Smoke, you know, select the layer, you can go over to the effects ribbon and we can add an axis tool. And in turn, what's going to happen then when we go into the axis tool is you have access to the keying tools, okay? But again, this is a very powerful keying tool here, and I'm actually going to use a lot of what you see here, but I want to use it in a non-linear pipeline, if you will. Right now, everything inside this tool here is all built in, and I can't rearrange the way it's going to be processed or what's controlling what and so on. So instead of using this tool, I'm going to use something called the modular keyer. So let me exit out of here, go back to my timeline. In fact, I'll hold my Alt key and I'll click on the axis tool to get rid of it, to throw it away. Just for reference, I am using the Smoke 2013 hotkeys, and that's what I will be referencing as I use hotkeys as we walk through this video, this tutorial. So as I was saying, I want to use the modular keyer inside of Action, which is the 3D compositing tool. So I'm going to select both these layers, okay? Go over to our effects ribbon, make sure Generate Composite is on, and then I choose this option, Create Connect Effects. And immediately we step into Connect Effects. We see on the left-hand side, we've got our nodes, our schematic. On the right-hand side, we've got a viewer. We can control what we're going to be looking at as far as in the viewer. We'll be looking at that. We'll go through this. And if I go back to my effects nodes, these are all the tools here that are available inside of Connect Effects. And then Connect Effects is extremely powerful with endless possibilities to what you want to do with your footage. And in all honesty, if I wanted to, I can recreate what's in the modular keyer right here in Connect Effects and build it up prior to even going into the Action node. If you look down in our node bin, if I hit the M key, it's a hotkey that I really like. Whenever your cursor is over your bin, your tools here, hit a letter, and any tools that start with that letter will be highlighted for you. So you'll see here I've got the master keyer, I've got matte curves, modular keyers built right here. I can drag that out and work with it outside of Action. That's not what I want to do. Let me click down here to deselect those, and you'll notice we also have matte tools, edge tools, and so on. So as I was saying, I could build it right out here inside of Connect Effects. And that is a workflow that works fine if you want to work that way. I'm going to use it inside Action. So if I select the Action node, which was created by default for me when I stepped into Connect Effects because I had that option on that said Create Composite. By doing that, Action is created, the Action node is created, and the bottom layer in my timeline, this background, becomes the background image of Action, and then any layer above that, any layer in my timeline above that, my sequence, then becomes a layer and is fed into Action as an individual layer where both the red, the input for the front, and the blue, the matte, has been already inputted for me. And when the Action node is selected and you turn off your effects nodes, you can see the parameters relative to whatever tool you're selecting. So obviously I select my input footage, I get the parameters relevant to this. If I select the Action node, I get the parameters relevant to Action. And one of them is the media bin. And you'll notice here with media selected, I have a media list. And again, there's my background and there's a green screen footage. The reason why I'm pointing this out is typical tools you use whenever you're compositing, keying, color correction, blurring, slipping, cropping, and so on, are available to you right here inside the Action module. So you'll see it reads K right there. So this little square right here for this media, our green screen, if I double click on it, we step into the modular keyer. So now I'm still in Action, but I've stepped into the modular keyer, and this is what I was talking about. First of all, you notice it looks a lot like Connect Effects because it's based on Connect Effects. But here's the point. Smoke is giving me tools it's suggesting me to use to create the matte or the alpha that I'm trying to pull. And this is what's called a start mode. If you notice here it reads start mode. If I expand this out, you can see all these different possible start modes that I can set up that Smoke has pre-built for me. If I want to do a luminance key, I can choose reset to luminance. But I'm going to discard that because I want to use the master keyer start mode. Now let's take a quick look at exactly what is going on in here. So you see we've got a result node. This is what's going back into Action, which then obviously goes out to our timeline. And it's got three inputs. It's got a red input, that's your front, your RGB information. There's the green input, that's your back. And then you have the blue, this is your matte, your alpha information. And you'll notice that there's a flow of nodes that are controlling each one of those inputs. And then they're all composited together for the end result. So right now, I have a master keyer that's been applied. If you look at the master keyer really quickly, we've got the front input, we've got the background, and we have the matte input. And then there's one output coming out of this, going down here in the red line that eventually turns into this blue line connecting here. This is my flow that's going to control the alpha. And this up here, the line coming out of the master keyer, the red line that goes into the red input, any tools I add here are going to affect the RGB information. Of course, we have our background. We could add tools to this if we want to, color correction or whatever. You could do that too, but I'm not going to do that at this point. So this is really why I love this tool. The versatility of this allows me to use any tool I want in any order that I want inside this module. I'll turn on my effects nodes, and you'll see, just like in Connect Effects, I've got a bin with a bunch of tools and nodes in it. Now, there's not as many tools in the modular keyer node, such as this, as there will be in Connect Effects, because Connect Effects is all the tools. This is really designed to focus on working on your mattes and your alpha and so on. There's compositing tools in here, there's histograms, there's glows, there's gradients, there's all these different things, and we're going to take advantage of some of these. Now, let's first of all change the way our layout looks. We step in here, we've got a one view layout. I'm going to switch this to a two up layout, okay? So now what happens is should be set to be the result. So if I click over here, you can see master keyer result, and whatever tool I select, it's going to be displayed in this player. Let me select this player and choose fit to fit it into the full frame of that. So as I said, Smoke has given me the modular keyer, and what it's going to do is use the front going into the red to alter and change RGB information, such as color suppression. And then it's going to use the key-in footage, which is the same source. It's just broken out into two different images so that we can affect the alpha independently from the actual front. That goes into the blue. Now, what I said in the very beginning was I wanted to separate each one of these guys, break the talent apart, right, in two different mattes and bring them together. So this is not going to allow me to do this if I have just one master keyer. I want to have individual master keyers for each one of these talents and individual mask tools for each individual talent. But I do want to use the master keyer to control the color suppression because it does have a very powerful color suppression tool built right in it. Right here where you see it says color, I've got a trackball and so on. So to activate this in the master keyer setup such as this, I need to just pull the key, sample the green, and that will automatically turn on this color suppression. So I click on the left pot and I come into the view and I'm just going to click and drag across. Now immediately you see what's happening. I'm looking at the result view of the master keyer. Now remember what I told you, the master keyer has two outputs. We've got the RGB output and we've got the matte output. So right now I'm looking at the result, and if I expand this out, you can see it says master keyer result and master keyer output. And F4 is the hotkey for me to toggle between them. So if I hit F4 right now, you can see that's what the matte is looking like. And this was the whole point. This is not going to work. I'm not going to be able to get a good key for both the talent because the green screen is so different behind each one of them. So that's where I was saying I'm going to need two separate keys. Okay, let me hit F4 once again to go back over to this, the output for the RGB. Because this is all I really wanted to do right now is just use it for the color suppression. So you can see the green has been added in here. Auto CC is on. I can toggle it on and off if you wanted to. I want it on. Also, just point of reference, you see this color trackball right here? This is great because I can shift the color of the suppressed green to be a different color. So let's imagine we're comping this talent over a red brick wall or a blue background of some kind. We can shift the color by just clicking and dragging, and you can see what's happening is I'm shifting the green that has been suppressed into a different hue value. Very cool. Okay, I don't really need that right now, so let me hold the Alt key and click on that little ball. That's going to reset it to 0. So as I said, this is great. Color suppression is done. I didn't have to do much. Let's start working on the keys. So looking over here, what I want to do is start breaking some of these tools. As I mentioned earlier, Smoke's given me some tools such as a 2D histogram, a matte edge tool, and a garbage mask. It's all fine. I appreciate your suggestion, Smoke, but I'm going to break you apart and rebuild and use the tools that I want to use. So I'm just going to click and drag across the connection points. I'll click across here, click across here. Now I've got all three of these nodes. I'll hold the Shift key, which selects everything in the flow. I'll drag them and throw them away. Now we're back to our node bin here, and there's a tool called the Matte Blend tool, and that's the one I want to use. So right there, I hit the M key again, I take the Matte Blend, I drag it out, I'll hold the Alt key, I'll kiss the key in footage, and I'll kiss the result, and now I've got my Matte Blend tool. Now, what is this tool, and why do I like it so much? First of all, understand what we've got going on here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You'll see we've got two different pipes, okay? This is considered one layer in the Matte Blend tool. But what's great is we can add multiple layers and have separate keying tools that isolate different areas, and then they get blended together, and I can control how they're blended together. Understand that each layer has these two inputs. The bottom pipe is called the matte pipe, and the top is the front pipe. If I place any tools on the matte, the bottom one, it's going to isolate the pixels that this top pipe will affect, okay? If you add any tools onto the front pipe with nothing on the matte pipe, you're going to affect all the pixels. And that's actually what I'm going to do in this case. So we're going to first isolate our Spidey character, okay? Let me go back to the first frame. So there he is. Let's come down here. I want to use that master keyer again. I love the master keyer. As I said, there's a bunch of other keyers in here. I highly recommend that you experiment with all of them to really understand the full arsenal of tools you have here. But I'll tell you right now, this master keyer does the job 99.9% of the times. Okay, I'm going to take my master keyer. I'm going to drag and drop it on the front pipe. It's added into there. You can see there it is. I know I'm going to need a garbage mask, so let's hit the G key. I take my garbage mask and I'll drag and drop that in there. So now on one layer on the front pipe, I've got a master keyer and I've got a garbage mask, okay? Now let's double click on the master keyer. So let's come over to this view. And what I want to do is hit the F3 key. That is my key in. So again, let me zoom back just for a second. That's this input right here, okay? So that's what I want to be looking at with my master keyer selected. You can always change what you're looking at by this flyout, just so you know. So you can see here master keyer inputs. Key in F3. Oops. Back F2. Front F1. I'm going to be at F3, the key in. I click the same color pot there, and we're going to click and drag all around this green, okay? Now we want to look at the matte. So that's F4. Remember the result. So now I see what we've done here, and we can obviously tell we still have a lot of work to be done here. Now there's a second pot here. You'll notice over here, I clicked on the left one. Let's click on the right one, and I'm going to click up here above his head. Now the pot on the right is typically used when you want to sample an area to add softness. So the workflow is usually click the pot on the left, click and drag to get a great sample of all the different green, and then use the one on the right to refine the softness. And then we have this mix parameter. I can now start to dial and try to find a good mix where I think the one on the left is actually giving us a little better. And of course, always smart to kind of scrub through and look. So yeah, you know what? There's just such variety up here inside this green. We're going to mask that out. Now there's another option which is called patching. And so right now you see I'm working on the sample, I'm working on the matte. If I click on this flyout, we have the ability to sample the spill, the blend, the grain, but there's 3 patches in here. If I switch to patch 1 and I come into the view and I start clicking and dragging, I can start expanding and cleaning up the area, just that pixel, if you will. You can also hold the shift control and click and drag and start to sample a range or an area within the rectangle that I just dragged. So that did a pretty good job. Okay, scrub through here. Yeah, definitely got some more issues. Okay, now we've got this corruption in his suit. Well, watch this. I'm going to go back over to the matte, okay? Come into the view and I'm going to click down once. And I get different contextual parameters based on the pixel value that I'm clicking on. I get the matte overall, matte shadow, and C, range C. And if I go in here and I start to adjust something like the range C, even going overall shadow maybe a little bit, and matte shadow, no, that's not going to work for me. So I'll leave the matte shadow where it's at, but I made a little, I undid that. Let me go back here, click again, and I will take my range C and drag it to the left. I'll take the matte overall and drag that a little bit. So that's looking much better. Scrub through and we see if we have any more corruption. Now that did a pretty good job. Now I see some areas up here that could be fine-tuned, and obviously down on the ground, yeah, there's some, it's all the stuff that's on the ground there that's really causing some problems. But let's create a mask to get rid of the rest of this garbage. So I'll select my garbage mask tool right here. We click in this side, so we're activating this viewport. This allows me to access the Add tool. I'll click Add, and I'll just click and create a couple control points around the guy, something like this. Of course, I'll close it then, and then we'll click on it to set it, and I'll choose Region of Interest. Now, it looks like I've got more control points than I really need. So this is what's great is I can switch my tool to be any one of these other tools. I'll choose the Delete tool, and then I can go into the player, the viewer, and just start double-clicking or clicking on these control points that I want to delete. Then I'll go back to my Select tool. And of course, the masks have Bezier handles. You can break your tangent handles. These are masks very similar to any other tool that you've used before. I should mention, though, as far as like softness, you have this offset slider. You'll notice that I can go inside and out and create the softness of this. This is a uniformed distance, of course. But if you want even more control, you'll have the softness button right here. Click on that. You switch now to the edge gradients. Now I have independent control for the softness of my mask all around it. But that's really more than I need, so I'm just going to go back to just the softness, and I'll add a little bit of offset to this like that. And I'll scrub through and see if we're okay. Make sure he stays in there. And it looks like, as we know, in the very end, he's going to kind of be pushed back when he's getting stabbed and kick out a little bit. So let's go to where we see the movement start happening, which is right about right here. Okay. And now auto key is on. Make sure that's on. You'll see the blue highlight when it's on. I can now start to manipulate some of these keyframes for this. Let's get rid of as much garbage as we can. In fact, I'll go to the first frame. I'm going to position this up like that. Clean that up. So I've got a little animation happening already. And then here his leg starts to kick up. So let's go and take this guy and move him over. Move this guy over like so. Make sure he's staying in there. That looks good. Right here, we're going to take it a little further. Again, you're just going to do this really quickly. Do a little roto work like so. I see his arm gets, or his shoulder gets knocked out there. Let's make sure the head stays in. Just a little tiny bit of an adjustment for the head back there. So, okay, that looks good. Now, there's still a couple minor issues in here. You can see we've got these other issues right here. Now, I could try a couple things. I could go back to my master key. Now, here's a workflow that I like doing. I've gotten rid of all this excess garbage. I don't want to see it, okay? So right now, we're set to look at the result. So whatever I select, again, that is what we're going to see. I want to look at the garbage mask the entire time I'm working on that master key. So to do that, if you right-click over any node, you have the option that says Set to Context. I choose that. You'll now see it reads C1, Set to Context. And if I bring my cursor over the player, I hit the 1 key, you'll see it says Context 1. You can also access this, obviously, through the flyout here. So this allows me now to go back to the master keyer, access all of its parameters, and not worry about any of the garbage that I don't have to worry about. Let's see if we can use a patch to clean this up a little bit. So let's zoom in just a little bit like that. I'll pan up. Let's go to another patch, patch 2. Just kind of click and drag on some of these areas that we're seeing this corruption. Like so, there. Okay, that cleaned it up real nicely. Another hotkey I recommend you getting used to using is the 3 key. Now the 3 key allows you, if you go to the modular keyer views, to look at the end action result. So if I hit the 3 key or choose it from this flyout, I'm now seeing what is happening out in action while I'm working in the modular keyer. I know, don't worry about it. We got horrible edge issues. Okay, we're going to worry about that later. Let's first finish pulling the key for the other guy, and then we'll worry about the edge, okay? Because the edge is going to be a problem on both of them. I guarantee you that. All right, so I'm happy with this key right now, except for the edges, okay? Let's add another layer, okay? So this is going to affect this guy. And again, you can add layers, you can name them, you can control the order of them, but I'm just going to select my matte blend tool and choose add. You'll see what I get. I get 2 more pipes. I get, again, a front and a matte, and this now I can use to focus on the other guy. All right, so let's do this. Let's go back to our tools. M for master keyer, drag this in, drag it into the top. G for garbage mask, G for garbage mask. Drag that there. Okay, select this view, hit the F4 key. Actually, I'm sorry, no, we want to hit F3. We want to see the key-in footage while I'm working on this master keyer. And then let's move forward to where we've got our Joker, okay? As I said, we've got a green vest there. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, let's first pull the key, focusing a little bit on this dark area over here. This is where I was saying it's so different than the rest of it. That's why I want to separate these two. So I'm going to click in the left color pot, and I'll click and drag all over this area right there. Let's hit the F4 key. Okay, we're getting what we're getting. Let's take the second pot and click and drag in here and see if we can't help that a little bit. It helps a little. Let's go into the view now. Let's see if we mix our mix. Does that help us? Actually, I'll increase it this way a little bit. Let's go and click in the view. We get our ranges. Let's see if this is going to help us. Gotta be careful. Oh, that vest is really going to be a problem. But let's try this. Let's go and try to do some patches. So again, I want to go and create a mask though. I don't want to see any other garbage that I have to worry about. Let's focus on what we need to focus on, right? So I'm going to select this garbage mask here, and we'll click this view to activate it, which gives us the add tool. I'll click add, and just like before, we'll drag a shape around this guy. It might need to add more control points later, but let's choose region of interest. So now I've got my mask isolating the area, and I got control points here. We might need a lot of control points because, as we know, this guy's got a lot of movement happening later, but let's not worry about that right now. Let's set this as another context. So again, I right click. Well, let me show you the hotkey. Instead of right clicking, if you hold the minus key and you click on a node, you set that as a context. So you can see this reads C2 now. Now, if I select this node down here and I hold the minus key and click on it, it disables that context point. So now this one became context point number 1 because I turned off context 1, so context 2 became context 1. We hit the 1 key while I got this activated, and you'll see now it reads context 1. Okay, so now I can select this master key here, and let's try to figure out this mess we got going on here. Let's go and sample a patch. So if I click and drag in here, whoa, that's a little strong. Be careful with the patches. Yep, that's really going to be sensitive here. Let's see what we want to do. Go back to our matte. If I click, do I have the ability? There we go. That's going to work. So I'm adjusting my matte highlight. That's helping a lot. Now I'm corrupting some areas over here, and the vest is going to get corrupt. There's nothing I can do about that. We're going to have to create a mask or a separate matte for that. But let's see if we can't just finish off these last couple pieces. Let's go add another tool. Let's see if this will work. Let's go to our effects node. And I want to go and take my 2D histogram, and I'll add it after the garbage mask. Double click on it. Now remember, we're looking at context 1 right now. So if I start making adjustments to this, we're not even going to see what's happening because we're looking at the node prior to the 2D histogram. So let's set this view F4 to be the result. So now I can see any adjustment I'm doing here as I start to crunch this. But let's make sure we don't lose that here. Okay? So I can drag this in a little bit. So I can crunch away. Again, hit the 3 key. This is really, I love this workflow. Now I can zoom in and pan over, and I can see what we're doing. Again, don't worry about the edge. It's a whole nother story. We'll start working on that in a minute. I'm worried about holding the key for his hair, and that's looking pretty good. I'm actually quite impressed. Not the vest. We know that's transparent. He's turning an invisible man there. Okay. So let's do this now. I like where we're going with this. What do we need to do now? Okay, we need to create a mask that's going to be focused just on his vest because F4, I'm going back, I don't care what I do. It's a green vest and a green background. So it's going to be appearing here. We need to create a mask that's going to isolate that area. So let's do this. Let's go back. Let's start where? Oh, wait. We got to finish his mask, his original mask. I'm sorry. Let's slow down there, Ken. Let's see what we got here. Let's take and we're going to create a lot of animations going on here. Again, I'm going to show you a nice hotkey, F1. We're looking at the front. So now we can see exactly, okay, we got all this movement happening in the end. So we're going to have a lot of animation going on here at the end as far as our mask. But the first part is just him walking on. And it would probably be pretty easy to just bring that in, just animate that by hand. But another workflow is using the tracking tools, which are pretty darn powerful here. So with this mask selected, if you look over here on the left-hand side, I've got the stabilizer, that's our tracker tool. I can go and make sure rotation is off, scaling is off. I only need to do a 1 point. So with the mask selected, click the stabilizer button, we step into the tracker, okay? Now the tracker, I'm going to turn off tracker 2. I only need tracker 1. Let's just take this, put it by his eye. Okay. I'm going to turn off fixed because there's a little too much movement happening with him. And fixed means we're going to sample the very first frame that I start the track at and use that as a reference on every single frame. With fixed off, what's going to happen is the frame is going to be updated on every single frame from the previous or the post frame that is using as its reference. So with that set, let's take our tracker box and just widen it up a little bit. And we're going to go backwards. So I click this button so you can toggle between forward and backwards. I'll go backwards. Click Analyze, and smoke's going to go through. And it's going to do its magic, as I like to say. I just love this tracker. It's ridiculous. In fact, I'll show you how you can track control points in a second. So it's getting to the end. I'm going to stop by clicking down to stop it. Then I have the step button. I can go right to where it goes off frame. Okay, so now if we return and I scrub, you can see all the keyframes are made for me, and my mask is animated for me, except for right at the end, which is not a big deal. Let's go to where the keyframes stop. I'll pan over, Command, Region Select, Auto key is on. I'll use my left arrow key, and I'll just start animating this by hand, right? I mean, this is pretty straightforward stuff. And finish that off, easy enough, get him off frame, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And he's gone. So let's just scrub through and see how we did. Good, 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 good. All right, so here's where we're going to have some fun. Yeah, lots of movement. Okay, so auto key is on. That's great. Let's move to where he's starting to go this way. Okay, so we see him starting to go right there. Let's start just adjusting some of these control points, get him ready for what he's doing. His arm comes back. Let's do this. I'm going to try to eliminate that. I don't want that marker on the wall if I can avoid that. There we go. Scrub forward. Is it doing? Yeah, it's working good. Okay, we see the front arm now comes up here. So let's start manipulating some of these control points. Easy enough. Just so you know, remember, Command, Region, Select, click and drag to grab multiple control points at one time to animate them. Okay, where we got a lot of movement. He's going way off frame here. Let's drag this up like that. All right, a little more at this frame. The head's going totally out. His jacket's flying out. Let's be careful. Let's watch what we're doing. Okay, this is good. Command, Region, Select. Drag that back. Region, Select, Command, drag that up. There's going way out of the way here, like so. Scrub forward. He comes back. He stays in. Ooh, the hand looks like it gets clipped right there. So let's just take this guy like this and see if that works. Yeah. Oh, that's close. I'm not going to risk it. We're just going to pull that back a little bit more. And right here you can see we need a lot of these things to go forward. So I'm just going to region select these, start animating them to go forward where he's going to go into the guy. Yeah. Go back like that right there. Oop. Does it stay in? Nope. Right there, I need to really take this up like that. And then we'll just animate it back a little bit. So if I scrub through, did it work? Did it work? Well, right there, a little more. Little touch. Right there, I just want to go. Actually, to be honest with you, that is actually could be keyed from the other key, but I'm not going to risk it. Okay, so that looks okay. I would fine-tune this a little further if I really wanted to, but I think we're good. Let's take a look at the mat now. So we hit F4. Okay, it's staying in there. And you know what? Where he's moving over here, why are we even dealing with this mess over there? So let's do this. Let's go. Oh, that's because the hand comes up. That's right. Okay, that's fine. So that's good. Let's now focus on our key. Well, selecting the 2D histogram, that's eliminated a lot of the issues that we were seeing outside there, but I think we got to clean that up a little bit too. Not a big deal. I'll go back to my mask real quick. Let's do this. So here, in fact, you know, instead of fighting the mask, let's do this. Let's go back to the master keyer. I hit the one key. I want to see this here. Let's just go get another patch. Let me see if I can't clean that up. There we go. See? Very simple. Just click and drag and clean that up nicely. Like so. Okay. You see the corruption inside of his suit right there? Let's do this. Let's go to patch number 1. I didn't use patch 1 yet. And I'll hold the control and shift and click and drag. and pull that and clean that up. Beautiful. Look at that. Going where's here, up here. Oh, be careful. Oh, wow, that actually did a pretty good job even on that. And I want to see something here. Hit the 3 key. Let's zoom in. We're still holding the hair. I am actually impressed. Look at that. That looks pretty good. But I'm not going to push it any farther trying to get that green to be solid because I'll tell you right now, I'm going to start losing some of that here. I don't want to. So F4 to look at my mat again, okay? Let's zoom back and let's select the histogram. So yeah, I am actually quite happy with that, except for the vest. Now look, there's a little corruption happening right there. I can fine tune the mask of it. But let's do this. Let's add another mask and we'll use it just to isolate the vest. Okay, I see we got that little bit of corruption right there. Let's select that garbage mask. F4, double click the garbage mask. I'm going to region select that, move that in like that. Let's go back a couple frames. That's good. Forward a couple frames. Let's try to keep that in as best we can. That little joker. Look at that mess right there. So let's just do this. I'll hit the 3 key again to make sure it's looking good. Yeah, it's looking good. Okay, F4. So I'm happy with that. Now let's go and create a mask just for the vest, okay? So I'm going to come here. Let's go back. After my 2D histogram, I'll go to my tools. I want to see this here. Let me turn off the context for my G mask, and I'll click and set a context for the key in, and then I'll hit 1 over the player. The reason why I'm doing this is I want to create another mask, and I want to see the actual incoming footage. So let's take another garbage mask, hit the G key, bring this up. I'll put it after the 2D histogram, double click on it, and let's add a mask. Click in the view to activate the add button, and I can click and I can create a mask around the vest. Obviously, we're going to want to zoom in here and make sure I create a nice mask like so. Just so you know, Option Command, that's your zoom. Option Control, that's your pan. Option Command, zoom. Option Control, pan. Click this. So now I've got a mask. So just like I did before, I have to go and animate this by region selecting and creating my key. Your typical roto work. Sometimes it just comes down to good old roto work. And I don't want to sit here and do this live in front of you. So, like a good demo artist, let me go and first of all delete that garbage mask. And I go to my effects node. I have a mask that I created already. So I'm going to drag and drop it. If I select it, you can see exactly what it is. So it's a mask. And as I scrub, I just animated it. And I have it following. So it's isolating just the vest itself. Okay. So the whole point of that now, if we look at the end result, F4, I now have a very nice clean mask that's isolating just that area. I see a little bit of a corruption I could fine tune there. Let's hit the 3 key. So now we see what we're doing. Okay, this is looking pretty good, right? So now we want to talk about these edges, right? This is where we typically are going to go and use other tools such as matte edge tools. So let's try it. So let's go back over here, and I'm going to go to my nodes, and I'm going to go down to my matte edge. So here's my matte edge tool. I'll focus on this guy first, okay? Actually, no, I'm going to take that off there. Hold the Alt, the Control key. You can drag it off. I'll put it after the G mask for this guy. So now if I go to this matte edge here, no, you know what I want to do? I'm sorry. Let's add that after this. Here's the beauty of this. Let's take that. Let's put it after the matte blend tool. So now I know this is going to affect both of these guys, right? So if you look, if we turn on shrink, zoom in, typical workflow, we toggle shrink on and off. It's working. We got a couple options, single pass, derivative. Let's go and see if we can drag this down. So I'll take the value down and just maybe turn on blur. Nah, erode. Let's look at the map. So what are we doing? We all know what we're doing. We're corrupting our actual edge. So we go through here, and we can shrink this, yes, and so on. Looking at 3, the end result. You know, if we look, we go over to our Joker guy, and we go to where we see is here. This is where, yeah, you know, shrink just isn't going to do it. If I turn shrink on and off, you can see what's happening. I'm losing all that nice softness. Now, I'll be honest with you, what I'm doing here, where I'm building 2 masks or two flows, if you will, to control each individual talent. I've actually done this at times where I use two different matte flows, or pipes, if you will, layers inside my matte blend tool to isolate just the head of someone or just the body of someone, and you blend them together. That's a very common thing to do using this tool. But this matte edge tool is not making me happy. I don't like it. So I'm going to throw that away. What I want to use is another tool called the pixel spread tool. So I hit the P key. There's my pixel spread tool. I'll drag it in. I'm going to start connecting this while I talk a little bit about what I'm actually going to do. I am going to use this pixel spread tool to warp the pixels, to warp the actual image. And what that means, if I double click on the pixel spread tool, I'm going to hit the F4 key to look at the end result of the pixel spread tool. And let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, pan down. So what the pixel edge tool does, the pixel spread tool does, it's a warping tool. It can be used for many different things, not just working with your keyer. But you have the option to change the spread mode. Are we going to expand or contract it? So watch this. As I toggle between expansion and contraction, you can see in the view what's happening. We are actually spreading the pixel. The pixel spread is a warping tool, as I said. It's pushing the pixels either contraction or expansion, and you have different spread types. So if I expand this out, you've got vector warp. First of all, if you have a motion vector pass, you can feed this in and you can use that with the vector pass. You have the stretch option. You also have parallax, and you have the interpolate. And I'll tell you, the interpolate is very powerful when you have 3D renders and you're having the pre-multiplied issues, the black line. Use this pixel spread tool and put it to interpolate. Oh, it just knocks it all out. It's beautiful. Okay, let's go back though. I'm going to use parallax. And now watch what happens as I increase the amount. We're expanding the pixels. So this is what's great. You also have edge width, you have spread blur. You've got all these different controls you can do with this. Now, what's the benefit of this? You're saying, okay, well, let's do this. Let's set this to 0 for demonstration purposes. I'll hit the 3 key. We're now looking at the edge issues that we have coming out right now, okay? So this is where we're like, this looks horrible. So if I start to expand the pixels, oh, what's happening? What's happening is we're expanding the pixels of the guy, of his suit, all these different areas, and it's going past the actual matte, which then in turn cleans that edge up for us. So that's what's happening. And what's great about this is we're not degrading our matte. I'm not crunching or shrinking my matte so I lose all that nice softness or the hair that we've worked so hard to keep. It's still just being expanded. That's the beauty of this tool. So you see what it's doing? It's just pushing it past. So we want to take this just to a minor amount, like 2.6. That way we're holding the nice softness of the hair. We also have eliminated that ugly edge that's happening all along from the compression of the video file. So there, this is looking good. Okay, does anyone else see the problem that I see right now? What happened to the green vest? I told you, I knew it. The matte for the vest is 100% opaque because of the mask that we placed in there. But the problem is the color suppression for our master keyer, which is doing such a great job, is crunching and compressing the green from the vest. So his vest is now gray. All right, like I said, don't shoot people wearing green in front of a green screen. But this is what we get. We can fix this. Now, what's great is I can show you there is a way to create a matte and feed it into the master keyer so that we remove that area of pixels. But I want to introduce you to another tool, which is the color blend tool. So let's go back over to our tools, and you see what I have is a color blend tool. So let me drag this in here. It looks a lot like the matte blend. The difference is the matte blend only works with alpha information, where the color blend tool, I can add multiple layers just like I did, and you can composite them together. But the bottom layer, again like this, is the matte input, where the top in this case is going to affect the RGB information. So what I want to do is let's first take this master keyer. I'm going to cut that, and throw this away. I'm going to reconnect this, and I'll take this guy and I'm going to feed it in there so he gets fed inside of there, okay? So now without the master key, you can see his vest is green again. Yes, but so is everything else. All the edges are all green again. Now we don't want that, right? So we're going to use a different tool. I want to just introduce it to you. And this way we can suppress the color and then put a matte in this color blend tool to isolate what pixels are being affected by this color correction tool. And it's called the color curves. So right down in my bin, I drag it up, I feed it on the top here, and I'll double click on it. Okay, now in this view over here, let's go back and let's look at the color correction inputs. I'll choose result actually. So what we want to do, we want to suppress this color. So you'll see down here in the parameters for our color curves, we've got all different controls such as adjusting the hue of it, adjusting the red, suppressing red, green, blue, luminous, saturation. First thing I want to do is I want to just click and drag around in the view, and you can see that down here in our color histogram, our spectrum here, that red line is dancing around. It's showing me exactly where I'm sampling. So if I go over the purple, I go over red, but I'm going to go into the green. Okay, so we know that's where we want to suppress. Next thing I want to do is sample the color I want to suppress. So I click this little pot right here, I click pick, and I'll select that same area. So I'm basically telling Smoke that's the color I want you to suppress. Now, if I just drag down with this color curves, you can see what's happening. We're suppressing that color, right? Okay, so that's working great. We can expand it out if we want, if we need more. Okay, so this is looking good. But again, it's the same thing as with the master key here. I'm affecting my vest here. So we want to put a mask in here so that that area is not being affected. So let's reuse what we've already done. So I'll right click on the mask we created earlier. I'll choose duplicate. I get a new mask. And I'll drag and drop it right here. First of all, with that mask selected, let's choose outside to invert the mask. And then let's go back. If you select the color curves, you're not going to see the change happening. You have to select the color blend, and voila. We've color suppressed all of the green that was affecting the green spill, but we're now not affecting the green of his vest because we've isolated that area and are controlling it with the color blend tool. All right, so let's hit the 3 key to look at the end result. Voila, we've eliminated all these issues with the tools that are available to us. Was this an easy key? No, it was not. That was the whole point though. We are able to pull the key using the tools that are available to us. So now let's go back out, return to action. So we go back out to our timeline. Here's our shot. So let's render this so we can check it out. So I'll click the render button. This is going to take a couple minutes to render. And now the render is done. Let's go to full frame and let's play this back from the beginning.
Another poser in a jumpsuit. What?
So that's a great key, especially when you consider what we started with, that green screen with all the different issues that we knew we were going to have to deal with. But Smoke has all the tools I needed to be able to achieve a really great key. Look at what we've got here. Look at this. Look at the hair on the Joker, how nice we're holding all that. And then he swings his arm over here. Look at all the nice motion blur, how he held all that inside of the key. And then, of course, the vest. Having green on the talon just adds so much more difficulty to pulling the key. But the point is, Smoke has the tools that I needed to get the job done. Now keep in mind that you can spend as little or as long as you want working on this key. But this is definitely a good key and it's very usable. And as I mentioned earlier, another Smoke artist may use other tools, may use other different methods of pulling the key. I'm just showing you how I thought it was best to do. There's many ways of achieving a great end result such as this with all the tools that are available to you inside of Smoke. So with that said, let's go back to our timeline. I want to thank Kanan Flowers and everybody at the Post Show and everybody at the Scruffy Show for allowing us to use this footage and be part of the Scruffy Smoke Challenge. And for now, I'd like to say goodbye. My name is Ken LaRue from Autodesk. I hope this was helpful and thank you very much for watching.